Good morning, one and all. On behalf of Gosumek Alumni Association, I welcome all of you to this prestigious Dr. Janak Shah Oration in Ophthalmology. I invite the dignitaries on the dais, respected Dean Ma'am, Dr. Sangeeta Rawat, with our guest for today, Dr.Shashi Kapoor, Dr. Janak Shah, and our chairperson for today, Dr. Avinash Ingole. I request respected Dean Ma'am to welcome our speaker, Dr. Shashi Kapoor, with a floral bouquet. Welcome, Dr. Kapoor. And Dr. Janak Shah. Ma'am, to Dr. Janak Shah. Welcome, Dr. Shah. I request Dr. Devkar, our Secretary of Gosumek Alumni Association, to welcome Dr. Dean Ma'am, respected Dean Ma'am, on behalf of Gosumek Alumni Association. And sir, I would request you to also welcome our chairperson, Dr. Avinash Ingole. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Devkar. Well, before we begin with the program, we have Dr. Preeti here, Preeti Shah, Dr. Janak Shah's better half. So we welcome you, ma'am. And we also have Miss Pooja Shah, who is an ophthalmologist in the making. So we welcome her as well. And we also welcome Dr. Namzoshi, our life member. Sir, thank you for coming. So before we go ahead, I would just like to tell you, for those who don't know our Dean, Dr. Sangeeta Rawat. She's an eminent neurologist and has been an alumnus of this very institute from undergraduate, postgraduate, super specialty, faculty, HOD, and now the dean of these twin institutions. And if I say she breathes KEM, I don't think I would be exaggerating. And since she took over as a dean in January 2022, which is about 1 year and 8 months, she has proven that she has been striving to bring about a lot of positive changes in the institutions, be it cleanliness, be it parking issues, be it starting new patient services like non-communicable disease OPD, be it enhancing the existing services, very supportive towards students and faculty, and the best yet would be her student Dosti project, which she launched last year for the mental health or mental well-being of the students of these institutes. And that, I think, as a psychiatrist, was way ahead of time, because NMC only thought of it later and made it mandatory much later, but KEM had already started Student Dosti project and the mentorship for students. So with those words, I would request Madam to address the gathering.
Good morning and welcome to all. Dignitaries on that, Dr. Kapoor, and I was so pleasantly surprised that he's Dr. O.P. Kapoor's son. So I think that is a big thing for all of us. We all know O.P. Kapoor's teaching, and today he is here to give the oration, so what better can we ask? I think and I also thank Dr. Janak Shah for having this oration, and I think Avinash has geared up this, and he has chosen Dr. Kapoor to come here and give the oration. Basically, I also want to say a few things about KEM, that now we are marching towards the centenary of KEM in 2025-26. A year will be our 100 years complete. So definitely we are looking forward to have a big support from our alumni And also, as a dean, I'm very shortly launching a centenary team where all current HODs as well as the past alumni who are interested will be part of it, and we would always like to have suggestions, help, and which help may be just a suggestion also and a financial also. Both ways you can help to bring up new things in KM hospital, bring up new projects in KM, and we have to do something remarkable for our centenary of KM. Yesterday only we had a meeting with our architect, municipal architect, and we had a presentation where we are planning to have two new buildings within the KM campus, and one of them is going to be Centenary Tower 2. Centenary Tower 1, already the process has started, but Centenary Tower 2 is going to be very big building, and each floor will have 23,000 square feet each floor footfall. So that is going to be a remarkable thing, and I hope we can at least start the Bhumi Pujan before the centenary year starts. I'm trying hard for that, and also we have projects like the new nurses hostel. The big problem is hostel for the first MBBS students, and let me tell you, the Eckworth leprosy area where the now leprosy hospital has stopped, now we are coming up with a new hostel which will host 1,200 students, and that already 8 floors are already over. So within a year, I think we should be able to give. So next year, this time I heard that there are students who have opted for Cooper instead of KM because there is no hostel. So that was very, I really felt bad that you're leaving KM because of no hostel, and I'll try my best to get the hostel in near future. I think now we have revamped this orations also because of the COVID. I think everything was online. We still have today combination of online and this because we have alumni all over world who will like to join this orations. And I wish that next time we have still better crowd and continue better. So thank you, and once again thank you for coming and giving.
Thank you, madam, for those encouraging words. And yes, we all will strive under your guidance to make the centenary a big successful year, which will continue from, I think, January 25 to January 26 for 1 year. Okay? So let us start with Dr. Janak Shah oration. This oration was instituted in 2017 by, of course, the kind donation of Dr. Janak Shah. And the first oration took place in January 2019 and the second one in January 2020. After that, because of COVID, 2 years it did not happen. So it is given to eminent ophthalmologists selected by applying the criteria, and today we have Dr. Shashi Kapoor who will be giving the oration. Just an introduction of Dr. Janak Shah. He is at present the medical director of Netra Puja Eye Hospital in Mumbai. He's an alumnus and has done his MBBS and his ophthalmology residency from SET GSMC and KEM Hospital. He has also received his pediatric fellowship from Sao Paulo in Brazil. He has done phenomenal humanitarian work in eradicating preventable blindness and has conducted MCICS workshops since last 25 years, performing 196 surgical missions, both in India and abroad. And he has also been awarded with plenty of accolades, like from Surgical Eye Expeditions International USA for 100 surgical missions and Certificate of Appreciation in Fight Against World Blindness, and many awards for his humanitarian work from India as well as abroad. So thank you, Dr. Janak Shah, for instituting this oration. And to chair this oration today, we have Dr. Avinash Ingole. Dr. Avinash Ingole is my batchmate. So, it's a proud moment for me to introduce him. He's Professor and Head, Department of Ophthalmology at SAIS GS Medical College and KEM Hospital. He has done his undergraduation from here and MS from Grand Medical College, and his FRCS from Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons, Glasgow. He's also done a fellowship in oculoplasty from New York and has been a postgraduate teacher since 15 years. Has many national and international journals. So we are happy to have you, Avinash, here, and it's a really pleasant moment for me to introduce you. So welcome. And now I give over to you to start the oration.
Hello. Respected Dean Madam, Dr. Shashi Kapoor, Dr. Janak Shah, Dr. Devkar, respected Dr. Geeta Madam, Dr. Shilpa, my colleagues, friends, and teachers, very good morning to all of you. It's my great privilege to introduce Dr. Shashi Kapoor. In fact, he needs no introduction. Dr. Shashi Kapoor has been trained in cornea and refractive surgery from the prestigious L.V. Prasad Eye Institute, Hyderabad. In fact, he's pioneered the excimer laser refractive surgery for myopia way back in 1991 in India. He is also ex-professor at Grand Medical College and JJ Group of Hospitals, and was looking after for the refractive surgery services with more than 2,000 surgeries a year. With keen interest in teaching like his father, late Dr. O.P. Kapoor, he has conducted more than 30 live surgical workshops, edited many ophthalmology books, and held editorial position at Journal of Ophthalmology. He has held many other key positions like past president of Bombay Ophthalmologist Association and Indian Intraocular Implant and Refractive Society. He has received Excellence Award on the behalf of Indian Society of Cornea and Refractive Surgeons. Now I call upon Dr. Shashi Kapoor to take us on his journey of refractive surgery from 1991 till date.
Good morning, Dr. Sangeeta Rawat, Madam. Thank you, and thank you, Janak and Avinash and the entire team for having me here today. This topic is something which is extremely interesting. History of refractive surgery. Almost more than every alternate person in the room is wearing glasses here. So refractive surgery is the surgery to remove glasses. And so spectacles, in fact, like so many things in medicine were, even there's a history from 5th century BC, Shankaracharya giving spectacles. And it is not in the consciousness that spectacle is a prosthesis. So it didn't cure myopia. It is as good as today if an orthopedic surgeon comes and gives an oration and says, I do knee transplant. And you say, but I have got my walking stick or my crutches. Why should I get a knee transplant? So the crutch, the spectacle was a crutch. That was the role of this man, Professor Jose Barakar. This is about 5 generations of very eminent ophthalmologists in Spain. And this particular son, 3rd generation, settled in South America, Colombia. And he did work. He tried to do surgery to cure the myopia, not to give a new fancy spectacle, contact lens. And so his contribution, the surgery might have been successful less or more, but his contribution was that he brought into the consciousness that spectacle is not a cure, it's a prosthesis. So he is trying to find a cure. Okay, so in that he proposed, that adding or removing tissue from the cornea can change the refractive power of the eye. And the disease was an inaccurate refractive power of the eye. So he what he did has probably never happened before in human mankind and never after. He took a slice of the cornea and put it on a factory lathe machine. And when he felt the curvatures change, he put stitches and put it back. So you can imagine that no ethics committee of a eminent medical college represented by all the ethics, chairman of ethics would ever say he took that, and at that time he had a lathe machine which he had borrowed from a watchmaker. And that used to lie in his house. He used to keep the patient on the operating table, take that disc of cornea, get into his car, drive home, lathe the human tissue, put it on a lathe machine, change it with all the accurate calculations, run back into the car, drive back to the operation theatre and take 22 stitches back. So, but it was a thought process. These are the people who, have to work alone. They cannot work as part of a committee, and because the whole thinking is so this thing. So you can see here on the left is the lathe machine which he used, a cryo lathe. To put it on that lathe, he first froze the disc with liquid nitrogen into a frozen piece, otherwise you can't lathe it. And this is how you can see the ice coming off on the right side, when he was lathing it. So he basically removed it, modified the curvature, reinserted it, and unfroze it, and then placed it on the recipient bed. And I think this deserves us to see one of his students, Lee Norden, who learnt this from him, and he put this video.
During the late 1970s, the myopic keratomileusis of Barricare was introduced into the United States by Dr. Richard Troutman. The first step in myopic keratomileusis was a keratectomy. A reference mark ensured that the corneal disc would later be replaced in the same position from which it was removed. Adequate intraocular pressure was ensured by a tonometer, and then the diameter of the proposed corneal disc was verified.
So the cornea is ready to be sliced. This is a vacuum ring, this is the slicing. You can see the cornea coming out from that.
The corneal disc was dyed green in order to visualize it, and it was then placed on the cryolathe. After adequate freezing of both the disc and the tool of the cryolathe
He's
was
actually
used to
lathing a
create
human
the new
cornea
shape of the
into
corneal
correct shape.
disc. In order to correct high astigmatism, an astigmatic keratotomy could be performed. In this case, a Ruiz procedure is being used
So
to
he's
correct
making these
the
sort of
astigmatism.
incisions on the cornea because there's also astigmatism. He's correcting that before putting the disc back and suturing it. cuts correct the astigmatism, and now the disc
After
is...
replacing the corneal disc back onto the cornea, an anti-torque suture was used to affix the disc in the proper position.
That's stitched back after. Now this procedure had, it was not very predictable, it was not very accurate, and things like that. So, but he established the law of thickness, that if you reduce the thickness in the center of the cornea, myopia gets cleared. And if you want to treat hyperopia, reduce the thickness in the periphery of the cornea. So his students, Krumek and Swinger, so they made a non-freeze technique, and they sort of put the, they sort of put the disc on a proper die, and they could manage to do it without freezing it, which took out a lot of the procedural, logistical problems. And then what came next was, so what they were doing was, they were taking a disc and lathing it. So the next people thought that we just take out the disc and lathe the bed instead. That might be a simpler way. So this is the next step, where you see there are two cuts. One cut is on this screen, you can't, but there's the outer circle you can see, which is the whole disc removed, and there's a smaller circle, which is the second part of the disc removed. So you have again flattened the cornea, and you correct myopia. You can imagine the sort of efforts that were going on to correct myopia. At this time in Russia, there was a very dynamic Professor Fyodorov, and he saw that if you make these type of radial cuts in the cornea, the center gets flattened. If you flatten, it's as good as removing some tissue and flattening it. And it was amazing. I mean, myopia disappeared. -1, you make 4 cuts, -2, you make 8 cuts, -3. It was Professor Fyodorov, like the Ford car, had an assembly line factory in US. Professor Fyodorov had an assembly line operation theater in Moscow. On the left, you see the assembly line. The surgeons sitting with a microscope, just one after the other, because there are about 10 million myopes in any country. And if you found a way to remove the myopia, you need an assembly line, factory type of. This is the picture, of course, after he had died, and with part of the All India Ophthalmic Association, we went for a session there. Now they give Indian Association a session. So they said, I can present a paper. So we took pictures next to his, I mean, look at the size of that statue, it's not life size, it's about 10 times his life size. And his office, and we were, because this man who could, not only be satisfied with knowing that you can make incisions on the cornea, implementing it on an assembly line basis. Finally, the US people could no longer ignore him, and of course, they made a museum of his office and all. So we had gone there. This was the All India Ophthalmic Society session. But before that, the radial keratotomy part, the Americans did their own FDA studies and all that, and finally passed the procedure. They made a little difference. They said the Russians start in the periphery and come, we will start in the center and go, we can't be like the Russians. But they passed it, and it became an FDA approved procedure. Once it became FDA approved, thousands of surgeons all over the world did it, And in India, we had numbers in MP. There's Dr. Hardia, who must have done 1 lakh or 2 lakh people. It was a completely gone through a scientific evaluation. It is a completely approved procedure. And it worked. It worked to mild to moderate myopia. It didn't work beyond much. And though it was the most cost effective, you just needed a blade. The patient just lied down, you took 8 cuts and the patient went home, no anesthesia, no nothing, he put on goggles and went. Okay, so it was very, very effective. And but at the same time, there was this laser, excimer laser. It was ultraviolet in the range of 193 nanometers. And they used to use it to etch the computer chips. Etch. So it was very precise. And Srinivasan was an Indian guy who was with IBM, and he used it on rabbit corneas. And he found that the incision made was without any thermal damage. And then he thought, this radial keratotomy, why not make it with a laser? Okay. By the time he thought of that, there was a John Marshall in London who thought that making incisions is not, only you can make 4, 6, you can't treat any amount of myopia. He wanted old Baraka's technique, that I should be able to remove as much tissue I want. If it's -10, I should remove more tissue. If it's -6, I can remove. So he wanted to use the excimer laser to cut a disc of tissue, or not cut, but just evaporate it. If you laser the cornea in a particular way, that much tissue evaporates. So John Marshall did this type of circular ablation, and that much tissue just evaporated. And that was called PRK, photorefractive keratotomy, in 1986. And Dean Madam also talked about my late father, and he was, of course, this is the Bombay Hospital Auditorium. It had 1,200 seats. But the gift of teaching, there were always people in the aisle who had to be accommodated. But he read about this excimer laser, and he said, you're becoming an ophthalmologist. The commonest patient in the OPD is a myope, is a chashma. And there's a machine to remove chashma. I said, but I have gone to all LV Prasad and all. Nobody has this machine, Shankar Netralaya and all. He says, but why do you look here and there that SV Prasad is good and Shankar Netralaya is good? The machine is there. There's a disease, myopia. You are an eye doctor. Why are we not having it? It was so costly. But he arranged this, that. And that time in India, there wasn't a single LASIK machine. And he, not being an ophthalmologist, wanted to. So he was a peculiar man. So I thought, last week they started a lecture season in memory. And they made a little tribute. So I thought I'll just show you to make you, introduce those who don't know him, This.
जब भी मिलते हो मुस्कुराते हो सर, जब भी मिलते हो मुस्कुराते हो, इतनी खुशियां कहां से लाते हो?
I wanted motivated people to come. Floods or no floods, our hall was always full. This becomes like a cinema hall. And the close-up lens the cameraman is showing on the screen. Kapoor sahab, aap sari umar padhao, and I feel that God has made me for this job.
जीत तू, जान तू, जहान तू, हो गई इतिहास का ताज तू, पन्नों में रहेगा माज के.
He is a teacher who teaches by heart. Whatever we have learned, it is from you, sir.
हौसले की कश्ती ना डूबे
He's unique.
इतिहास का ताज तू होगा इतिहास का ताज तू
Now, after I die, will anybody be doing it? I think so. There is some hope I've got.
What makes me different from them is I am sir student.
कितने भी फ्लड आ जाए, कुछ भी आ जाए, पानी भर जाए, ट्रेन बंद हो जाए, लेकिन ये जो शो है ओपी कपूर जी का, वो हर संडे जो है वो रेनी सीजन्स में शुरू रहता है।
आप जब भी पढ़ाते थे तभी यहाँ से पढ़ाते थे, दिल से पढ़ाते थे।
It's a great service. It's a great service, laudable. Someone who has given thousands and thousands of students and the general practitioners his discourses free of cost. Is it not a charitable gesture? Normally people don't do charity from their profession. They will pass on some money which they earn and do charity. But do it in your own profession. It is something incredible.
His passion, his zest for life, and his energy levels at his age. I hope when I'm that age, I would be the same.
You are definitely one of the best that I've seen today. Thank you so much, and I hope you can keep on and keep on forever, really.
जीना यहाँ, मरना यहाँ, इसके सिवा जाना कहाँ। तो मुझे लगता है कि कोई एक व्यक्ति के ऊपर ये अगर गाना आज डेडिकेट हम कर सकते तो ही इज़ ओपी कपूर सर।
जीना यहाँ, मरना यहाँ, इसके सिवा जाना कहाँ।
30 years passed in this same stage, same auditorium.
जाना कहाँ, जी चाहे जब हमको आवाज दो, हम हैं वहीं, हम थे जहाँ, अपने यहीं।
Hard work. Hard work. Without hard work, you cannot become a good doctor. Everybody can teach, remember that. But teach from the bottom of your heart.
Thank you. So, LASIK came in 1990 to India, 3 machines. One went to Punjab, one went to Dr. Hardia in Indore, and one came here to Mumbai. By that time, Professor Palikaris, he's regarded as the modern father of LASIK. So he made this little hinge. You know the flap, we lift a flap, but putting a suture caused all the astigmatism. So he stopped the cut before it went 360 degrees and just had a hinge which you just put it back and use the excimer laser to remove the disc of tissue like John Marshall in England had thought of. So this is Professor Palikaris. Of course, since the machines were new and that time, you know, the company people helped me to go and meet him at Crete. And afterwards, after a few years, when I wrote a book on LASIK, he was kind enough to be my co-editor. His name should have come first, but this was the capacity of the excimer. It could cut a human hair with this precision. So that is what enabled it to correct, you know, myopia with such precision and without this. So this was the final modern procedure, a thin flap with a hinge which was folded back. The excimer was laser, was used to remove the tissue, and this flap was replaced. So it could treat about -1 to 10, though initially, people treated 12, 15, 18. But afterwards, it was sort of up to 10 diopters, the age group after 18 when it is stable. And this is it takes hardly 2 minutes to do. And this is a procedure, a modern LASIK, like how you mark it with these violet pens to realign the flap when you put it back. You keep this suction ring to form the globe while taking the cut. Once it is formed, this is just like a Gillette shaving blade. It goes across, doesn't go complete 360 degrees so that there's a hinge and goes back. You just take this spatula and lift it and put it back, and now use the excimer laser to remove a disc of tissue, depending on the amount of myopia, amount of astigmatism. The patient is completely like most ophthalmic surgeries, no retrobulbar block, no block, nothing. The patient is told to look into the laser, and in about 12 seconds per diopter. So if it's about 3-4 diopters in about 30-40 seconds, the procedure is completed and you roll the flap back. Now, this sort of became a very standard thing. Now, it was like magic. A patient, because there was no sutures, there was no lay. The patient got back his vision by the time he was back in his room. It was just like the patient couldn't believe it, neither could anybody else believe it. So you put it back, and for a long time this remained the benchmark in refractive surgery. Of course, little bit of modifications came. You could take little more detailed measurements from an aberrometer, which took more detailed refractive errors which are present in every eye, and that is how it came to be known as wavefront guided LASIK or topography guided LASIK. Some companies, they started taking detailed pictures of the cornea, incorporating that into the LASIK procedure. And so, point is, where are we today? Are we convinced that LASIK is not a fashion industry? Or is myopia a disease? The attempt to cure myopia, Baraker lathed the tissue, froze it, Fyodorov made incisions, made assembly line. 50 years later, do we accept that myopia is a disease? And it can be cured with a surgical procedure. So, my understanding of that came, thanks. Thank you so much for coming. When I joined JJ Hospital 13 years back, and they got a LASIK machine, and it was shocking. Where was the question of cosmesis? Here were poor people who were paying 2 rupees for the case paper and saying, Chashma ghalun tak, I don't want to wear glasses. So it cost 10,000 rupees even in JJ. Those poor people, their salary monthly was 3,000-4,000. I asked them. They were paying 3 months' salary. They were paying more than the people who were paying the private practitioners. The people who were not paying the private practitioners 3 months of their salary. And the department took off. I was doing 2,000 procedures without any charge per year, and there was a waiting list of 1 year. I could not devote any more time because I had no other means of income. I had to go to my clinic in the evening. The amount of time I could devote. But it made me understand that these poor people have no money for fashion and no time to devote for fashion, but they had a common sense understanding that we have weak eyes, and somebody told us in JJ Hospital, they strengthen it. Your vision will improve, in other words. And that was a great learning process, and so we did many thousands there. I did many thousands. The age limit remains today about 18 to 50. In JJ Hospital, of course, the Home Minister had come when he was 54. And I did it. It was quite scary because police commissioner used to accompany him only as his relative. So if anything had gone wrong, they didn't need a FIR or a police complaint, nothing. They had to simply take whatever action they wanted. But there is no problem. If the myopia has been there from young age, even 50, 55 is not this thing. You can correct astigmatism also. These are textbook indications, right? Talking, what is the indication for correcting myopia? Arey, tu military mein ja raha hai. Achha, you don't have to join the damn military and die at the Kashmir front to get your myopia cured, you know. But textbook indications would go like that. That for career purposes, pilot, this, nursing, you know, so many nurses got it done when because JJ is a huge campus. And when they sort of initially must have seen the results later on. And so it gives you freedom from the dependency of glasses. There are some contraindications. You have to do a topography. Topography gives you whether the cornea curvature is okay, normal, whether the pachymetry thickness is normal. And there are some, you know, contraindications like keratoconus, etc. As I told you, there were some companies who brought abrometers, the upper right cornea, which measures small refractive errors, not just myopia, hyperopia. There are smaller ones which are there in every eye, coma, spherical aberration, trefoil, and these are also measured by the machine. And they incorporate that. For example, if you see this, this is a picture of, these are big refractive errors, you know, mathematically. Myopia, hyperopia, as you go down the pyramid, you'll see the shapes becoming more complex because they are smaller refractive, small in magnitude, but complex in design. So there were machines which came, we had this machine in JJ, and you know, aberration guided LASIK did thousands of them, thousands of them. It's costly because you have to add, the American companies, they take a card, you know, every patient you have to pay for the card. And so that was some small modifications would come to the basic LASIK procedure. This is like the right-hand corner is the final refractive error, but it's made up of so many small refractive errors which combine together to give that. Then Alcon, you know, took only the small aberrations of the cornea and said we are adding that to our procedure and called it Contura, which they advertised in the media, on the Google. So many patients come and say, do you do Contura? So that's typically a American company's thing. So high myopes still are not treated by LASIK. You probably need to open the eye, put an intraocular lens inside, or what is called a phakic IOL. There are some side effects of LASIK. You can get glare from headlights and dryness of the eye for a few months. And then about 5 years back came another laser, femto laser, which was used to make the flap. It makes no difference. It's just like making a flap. We shave every day with a blade. If you've got a brand new Gillette blade, you get a cleanest cut. You don't need a Philips electric shaver to do it. But anyhow, there were companies who were ready to make it, and then the marketing took over, and then they said it is bladeless versus bladeless. And so many people demanded it. It was a laser which had a pulse duration in the femtosecond range. So it was useful for creating a corneal flap. And last slide of today is what is LASIK. The finest refinement is again creating a disc with the help of this femtosecond laser intrastromally and pulling it out through a small pocket like you can see on the right hand side, and which is called SMILE. It's a very costly machine, 6 crores, and therefore the patient also has to pay a lot, but it is the ultimate refinement. And you can see this is how it is done. The femto has created a disc, just like Baraka was making a disc, but he was taking it from the top. This has gone in the middle of the cornea and created it. And so then after that, you can just pull it out with a forceps, pull out the disc. You can see this at the moment. You put a forceps to separate the disc from its surrounding structures, and then put a forceps in and pull it out. It's been separated, and you can see it is being pulled out. So this has a small incision, just like laparoscopic surgery has its advantages. And that's all. I hope I've given you something about the journey of refractive surgery. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you.
That was a wonderful presentation, Dr. Shashi Kapoor. As I want to sum up what you have already said and described in few words, refractive surgery has evolved over a period of time, as we all know, that earlier only people with high glasses number, they used to opt for it. But today everyone wants a supervision, everybody wants to be spectacle free. It's no surprise that the commonest surgery that is performed in ophthalmology, that is cataract, is also a refractive surgery. So many intraocular lenses have been invented, like multifocal lenses, trifocal lenses, EDOPs, toric lenses. Whole idea is to make the eye emmetropic without spectacles. I would like to thank you on the behalf of GS Medical College and KIM Hospital also for coming here and delivering this lecture most comprehensively. Can I ask Dr. Kapoor? Please, sir, please. Please come on.
Hello, Dr. Kapoor. Nice to have met you again. I was in JJ Hospital for a number of years, though a student of GS. I have one important question. Nice to have heard your lecture. And so, with all this LASIK surgery, one question is that I feel that a number of eyeglasses manufacturers, traders, and all that, are they going to be jobless?
No. No. They will never be jobless. Typically, not more than 2% of the population who suffer from this illness will get the surgery done. Anywhere in the world, they have seen, and there are so many factors for it. Primarily fear. A person is very afraid of having a surgery done on his eyes. Second is financial. The number of LASIK surgeries in every country goes up and down with the recession and with the amount of money the people are able to, economic issues in that country. So and there is, with all due respect, sir, there aren't enough surgeons to, if everyone opted for, even 10% of the world opted for it, because in countries like Japan and for Chinese population, 80%, 70% of the population is myopic. Where are the doctors and where are the machines who can do 100,000 procedures a year? So that the spectacle shops will remain.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Your father was wearing spectacles.
Yes.
We were colleagues when we were there. Did you offer him your surgery anytime?
So he had a cylindrical number. And as I said, this is something that I don't offer to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is they must come to get it done.
Okay.
Okay. And for example, in JJ, we had a rule. If anybody asks more than 3 questions, we tell him, actually, you're not a good candidate. No. So the issue was, if you are not motivated, I had a waiting list of 1 year. Now tell me, why should I try and motivate this guy or this guy and waste my time?
Yeah.
If I am already saying that spectacles will remain, I'm already saying no spectacle manufacturer will go out of business. There are some people who want to get rid of it, and there aren't enough doctors and machines to do that much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we simply keep everybody happy.
Yeah. That's a good way, good thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think it was, I'm sure all of you will agree with me that it was an enlightening journey for LASIK, that those of us who are not ophthalmologists, and it was a nostalgic experience seeing that slideshow of Dr. O.P. Kapoor. It took us almost 35 years back when we used to attend, sitting in wherever we found place, in the aisles, on the seats, on the floor, and attend his lectures. So I think both ways, thank you, sir. I will now invite Dr. Kapoor along with Dr. Janak, Shah and Dr. Avinash Ingode, and we'll felicitate the speaker for the oration. So please. Congratulations, sir. for this Dr. Janak Shah oration. Both of you hold it. So that. Thank you. So please wait a minute. We will also thank Dr. Janak Shah with a memento. I would request Dr. Kanchan to please thank Dr. Janak Shah on behalf of Gosumek Alumni Association. And I request Dr. Geeta Nataraj ma'am to thank Dr. Avinash with a memento.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much for conducting the show so beautifully, madam.
Thank you, sir. And I now request Dr. Anamika Agarwal, Professor and Head of the Unit of Ophthalmology, to propose the vote of thanks.
This is a huge nostalgia for me to be here in MLT. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have words. There are tears in my eyes. Loads of memories have flashback in front of my eyes, right from my first MBBS to third MBBS, and now I'm back over here. Anyway, at the conclusion of this oration, I sincerely thank respected Dean Madam, though she is not present over here, for taking out the time from a hectic schedule and gracing this occasion and presiding the session with that vibrant smile from which I get inspired. I'm also thankful for the chairpersons, Dr. Shashi Kapoor sir. Thank you to you so much. I do get motivated whenever I see you for the fitness, though you're wearing a coat. You remember the discussion, I hope so. Also, I thank you, Dr. Janak Shah, for being here. And I look forward for more collaborations with you and helping me in bringing up the Opthal department, outshine others. I also thank my team leader, Dr. Avinash Ingole, my Big B, and my punching bag. All the esteemed members of Gosumek Alumni Association who have worked very hard backstage to get this show on front stage. I thank them all. Most of my words will have they will not be sufficient to say thank you for this MLT team and the association, each and every component of it, maybe housekeeping, audiovisual or anything. I thank them from my heart. I also thank all the audience, whoever is present over here, for pulling out themselves in this auditorium to bring out this program a huge success. Also, I thank my Opthal team, whom I am proud of, who is my backbone. Standing in front of my teacher, Dr. Geeta Natarajan, and many of my colleagues. If I have missed out on anyone, I sincerely apologize. Now, I welcome all of you for the refreshments which have been served outside. And I request all the dignitaries to proceed to the boardroom for the refreshment. Thank you.
Just want to thank Tushar and his team for beautiful, fantastic audiovisuals. Please give them a